has bruises and abrasions all over his face. So it wasn't scratches, right? Anthony, age 10, has bruises near his left eye and ear. The explanation for the injuries are suspicious in nature. Therefore, Michael, father, and Angela, mother of those, 3 girls, will be the alleged subjects. Thomas and Anthony are treated differently in the family. The mother and father ration how much food Thomas and Anthony are allowed to eat. As a result, the children are very pale and underweight. The children are always hungry and begging for food. The roles of Andrew, age 6, Gia, age 7, and I'm not going to obviously list, and me are unknown. What I can tell you from my personal experience, the only way you can help children is to stop the corruption that does exist inside the CPS, inside the court system. We're talking about the web of corruption. We're talking about courts, police, DA's office, CPS. I went everywhere begging for help for my children. I filed numerous complaints, hoping that there is one person, one institution who's going to fight for my children, who's going to hear my story, and they're going to intervene what is the time to save my kid's life. This was preventable. In 2016, there was severe, strong allegations in regards to sexual abuse of my children. I went to Cohen's Children's Hospital, where the specimen was taken, obviously from 3 of my children. The doctor who did, obviously the kids, he told me he has to hold the test results and give it to the detectives to be tested. Those specimen was never tested. The Nassau County detectives never came to pick up it to be further given to the lab. And then you have the reports where my son was coming to school bent in half with his tushy hurts, with finger marks on his arms. The children were sexually abused. And father and Angela receiving enormous amounts of money on their accounts, ranging from $30,000 to $130,000 a month. I do hope there's going to be thorough investigation in regards to extreme abuse of my kids, extreme. What those kids went through, God only knows. And it's going to take such a long time for their healing process to be completed. But there are more children out there that needs to be saved, more loving parents that are the victims of this corruptive system. All the judges, in my case, have to be held accountable. We still have Dana McCabe on a case who completely failed to help my children, who laughed at me when I addressed the abuse of my kids with the court. We still have, Ed Heap in Suffolk County, Child Protective Services supervisor, who is actually overseeing now the case involving the death of Tammy. Why? Why those people who should be in jail are still working, are still have jobs? So just wanna, at the end, thank you everybody for love and support you've been extending towards me and my family. It means so much to us. I know Tammy touched so many, hearts of so many people who truly care about the children, truly care about, kids being placed in a loving and safe environment. And I do hope that this is gonna bring changes. So let the change begin. Thank you.
Thanks Social Services for being here, but we are going to move along with public comment. Our next speaker is Thomas F. Liotti. Am I reading it right? Yeah.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the fact that the legislature is having this meeting tonight, and I know some of you very well, and I think if this were a courtroom, I'd probably have a slightly different question that I would have posed to CPS and DSS. And that question would be, why didn't someone listen to Justyna? And what caused the system to break down? That wasn't answered tonight. We heard a lot of bureaucratic falderall about the process and so forth, but that specific question about what happened here to protect Thomas or not protect Thomas was never answered by CPS or DSS, and not even asked. So I'm going to try and answer that question now. I am an attorney. I am Thomas Liotti, a proactive attorney in private practice for more than 42 years throughout the state and nation, usually representing individuals and causes. While the horrors of the Valva case have driven home a point for some of us about alleged neglect and incompetence of CPS and DSS in cases of domestic violence and child abuse, your focus, if honest, should also be on a corrupt system that allows for the nomination of judges who have paid for their judgeships, who are chosen by political bosses and lobbyists like Al D'Amato, who are in some cases cross-endorsed with no prior judicial experience, like Justice Joseph H. Lawrence, who should be immediately removed and suspended without pay from his position as a Supreme Court Justice. The same should happen with respect to Justice Hope Zimmerman, who I understand has retired and basically run for the hills. But these are problems within the system. It is a system not based upon merit and independence. It is a system based upon dependence, where political parties depend for their existence on campaign contributions and in return dole out judgeships as a reward. It is a corrupt system that allows for campaign contributions to judicial campaigns by lawyers, forensic psychologists, and accountants, and attorneys for children, lobbyists and litigants who expect and do receive corrupt favorable rulings and assignments from a corrupt judiciary that knows who has contributed to their campaigns. A judiciary which does not disclose those contributions or recuse themselves when parties or lawyers come before them to collect the favors for the contributions they have made. A part of the corrupt system are bar associations and their judiciary committees that go along with these illicit practices. All lawyers, if not railing against these practices, are a part of a corrupt system and defy their oaths to uphold the Constitution. There is no psychological screening of judicial candidates. Judicial candidates are not required to demonstrate their sensitivity to women's and children's issues, or even to show a modicum of respect or politeness or the capacity to learn about these issues and humbly admit to what they do not know. Instead, we have too much arrogance in a political and judicial system run by political bosses. I have been a village justice for 29 years. I am registered as a blank. When I run for office every 4 years, I do so under my own party, the Judicial Independence Party. I do not solicit or accept campaign contributions. I do not spend my own money. I encourage others to run against me. No one has except for my first campaign. I run on my record, which is what all judicial and other candidates should do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jennifer Melnick.
First, I want to offer my First, I want to offer my condolences to Thomas Valva's mother and brothers. My name is Jennifer Melnick. I'm a psychotherapist in private practice and a forensic social worker. I'm on the assigned counsel for Attorneys for Children's mental health panel, where I'm appointed on cases in family court on Long Island and the city. The majority of cases I work on are abuse, neglect, delinquency, and PINS cases, and nearly all of them I have been in contact with associated CPS workers. What I have encountered through my contact with Nassau County CPS, in my opinion, extends beyond an issue of caseload and bleeds into questions about training, supervision, and checks and balances. The cases I'm brought in on are already in family court. I've been involved in cases where there were allegations of significant educational neglect, where CPS had been actively involved for an extended period, and where the CPS worker had no knowledge that the children had educational service needs and that they had extensive IEPs that were not being adhered to. On other cases where housing was the only barrier to reunification, the CPS worker refused to assist the parent in navigating the housing services department within the same centralized building, and the child continued to languish in out-of-home care. Basic oversight ensuring adherence to the Family Court Act and OCFS guidelines would have assisted in easily progressing these cases and providing less detrimental outcomes. Generally speaking, the family court process is not natural for families. Counties outside of Nassau are by no means problem-free, but in other counties there are layers of OCFS services and best practices in place in an effort to insulate families with preventive services. To my knowledge, there are minimum intensive home-based OCFS services, and I have nowhere in many cases to refer clients to unless they can travel. It is unrealistic to expect that weekly or biweekly home visits or office visits in a centralized location, as opposed to scattered site field offices, will allow for an accurate or complete picture of what's going on and ensure that kids are safe at home. On another note, Suffolk County and New York City have interdisciplinary institutional legal services